Welcome back to the Gas Compression Podcast. I'm excited. Today's interview marks the first in a new series. We're talking about the blue collar industry, talking to blue collar industry experts and sharing some insights related to the labor crisis that has been called the Great Resignation. And over the next few episodes, we're going to be talking to people in different areas outside of gas compression. So today I'm excited to have on Greg Hayne. He's in the commercial roofing space. Greg, I'm gonna let you kind of explain a little bit more about what you do, but tell us kind of what you're up to now and what you're going to share about in terms of the blue collar labor force.
Michael, first, thanks for inviting me. When you sent me this invitation, I'm going, gas compression. But we got that straightened away, and hopefully I'll be able to make a contribution to your listeners. So yes, my area of expertise is in commercial roofing. And within that, I facilitate peer groups where I bring non-competing contractors together from around the country of similar size and focus to help them share best practices, work on common problems, so forth and so on. That's been a big hit. And as a result of that, I've got 50 contractors in these groups right now. And so I kind of have my pulse on a lot of blue collar businesses and understand the challenges that they're experiencing, not only with the labor challenges that we have, but with a lot of other challenges. And so hopefully I can share some of that today.
Awesome. Well, yeah. So we're the similar industries in that you're not going to outsource a mechanic's job who it is that is either tearing down or rebuilding a a compressor unit. You just can't outsource those jobs. You can't outsource roofing labor. You can't outsource those kinds of things.
Actually, you can.
What do you mean?
Yes, and many people do. What
do you mean exactly?
So many roofing contractors do all of their installation with subcontract suppliers.
Sure. I just meant like you're not going to get a robot to do that job.
Oh,
you have to have a human.
No, you're not going to get a robot to do that job.
You have to have a human who knows what they're doing.
Yes, you absolutely do. Yes,
yeah, that's kind of what I meant.
Yes.
So what insights do you have about the Great Resignation or kind of the blue collar skilled trade labor shortage? I mean, where is it coming from? What's your opinion?
So I think this is an interesting question. And I don't think there is one simple thing that we can point to and say, well, that's the problem. And we fix that, everything else fixes itself. And if I may, if you'll indulge me, I have an interesting story to tell,
sure,
which kind of indirectly introduces this whole topic from my perspective. So in one of my peer groups recently, we invited an economist to come in. And this particular peer group, the contractors in that group, the smallest contractor is about $12 million a year in revenue, and the biggest is about 50. And so they invited this economist to come in to talk about, the labor shortage, the material shortage that we certainly are experiencing in many of our industries, what the economy is going to be doing, how COVID, all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so he came in and he did his little presentation, and one of the roofers asked a question, which kind of delved into the fact that this particular roofer was not particularly happy that our current administration is of the party that they are. Okay. It was about economic policy. And the economist said, look, he said, I have been doing this now for, 30 years. And here's what I will tell you. It makes no difference which political party is in power. The economic policies that they put in place are stupid and make no sense. It doesn't make any difference if it's the Republicans. It doesn't make any difference if it's the Democrats. They're stupid and they don't make sense. We figure out how to make it work anyway, in spite of that. So one of the first things I think that we need to understand when we're talking about the labor shortage is as we look at solutions, some of the causes here are stupid, and we're going to have to deal with them anyway. So the first of those that comes to my mind is the fact that we do not have a labor shortage. We have a shortage of available labor. There are many people that would love to come to our country and do the jobs that we need to have help with, but we won't let them in. Now, I am not suggesting that we should allow illegal immigration, okay? But there are bunches of people that are perfectly willing to come to the United States and do the jobs that need to be done. And what I find fascinating is the fact that we have people up in arms around these COVID mandates. They're writing their congressmen saying, this mandate is stupid, this mandate is bad, this is bad. But none of them are writing their congressmen and saying, fix the immigration problem so we can get the workers that we need. And that's what we need to be. That's one of the things that we need to be doing. We need to go to our government and say, fix this problem, because it has long-term, long-reaching effects on my ability to do the things that need to have done. And if we don't do that, we could end up in a recession. If our economy slows because we can't get the work done, we could end up in a recession. Mm-hmm. So that's a piece. Another piece is that within our country, there is a shortage of available workers. The economists that spoke to our group talked about this. We're like 4 million people short. Okay, so we do have a shortage. So we have to compete. This is not something that most people in the blue collar industry are accustomed to having to do, because you are no longer competing with the other gas compression company down the block. You're also competing against Amazon, who now has a minimum starting wage of $18 an hour, and you can sit on a forklift and run around an air-conditioned warehouse all day long. We are competing against everyone for talent. And many industries require blue-collar talent. It's not just gas compression and roofing and outdoor living. It's everything. So I was at a presentation done recently by the president of the National Roofing Contractors Association. His name is Reed Ribble. And Reed is a past US congressman from a district in Wisconsin. So he knows the political system very well. And he has successfully been able to get himself elected and represent his people. He's no longer a congressman, but he is now the president of the NRCA, which is the oldest and one of the largest, if not the largest, trade association in the country. And he did a presentation recently, and he said he had done some, and of course, everybody wants to know about the material shortage at the roofing industry. He said, well, let's talk about the labor shortage a little bit. He said, we've done some research. Do you realize that to have a living wage in this country right now, it's $21 an hour?
What is defined? What's defined as the living wage? What does that exactly mean?
So to be able to, that's not a question that anybody asked him. All right. And he also qualified it by saying, certainly in certain regions of the country it's higher, certain regions it's lower. But his point to the roofers are, y'all aren't paying that to the people that you're hiring. You're trying to pay them less than that. That's one of your problems. That was his message. Mm-hmm. It was delivered by a professional politician, very professionally and very carefully, but that's what he was telling them. Mm-hmm. But I think that what he means by a living wage is that you should be able to work 40 hours a week and feed a family of 4 and provide for their needs and put a roof over their head and food on the table and not be in poverty and blah, blah, $21 an hour. So if you're trying to hire people for 18 or you're trying to hire people for 12 or whatever it is you're trying to hire people for and you're having troubles, that's one of your problems. Okay, there's no question that that's an issue. And anecdotally, I have a contractor that I work with in a major metropolitan area. I'll have to disguise this a little bit, right? And he was having trouble finding people to put in his service trucks. So in the roofing industry, service is where we go out and fix roof leaks. They normally put 2 guys in a truck, and the first person you put in that's in charge of that truck is called the foreman, and the other person's the helper. And so he was having trouble in this large metropolitan area finding foremen. And I said, okay, how much are you paying him? He told me. And I said, I think you're a little light. And he said, what do you think I need to be paying him? And I said, well, I know people in your market that are paying, and the number I gave him was $4 an hour more than he was paying. And I said, I think they're having trouble. So you might try. And I gave him a number that was $6 an hour more than he was paying, which was probably a 25% increase. Okay. Pretty close to that. And I said, try that. All of a sudden, he had no trouble finding help.
Right.
Okay. So part of the problem we're having with labor is we're just not paying them enough. A third issue is that, as I already said, you're now competing against Amazon. It's not just the other gas compression company down the street. We need to build a marketing program for attracting people. I was in Atlanta this year at a Burger King, and I walked in there to order my fish sandwich for lunch because I was in a rush. And they had on the counter, they had a little banner that was about 4 foot tall, and it showed the career path for someone that came to work at Burger King. Okay, so now if you go to work for Burger King, that's blue collar, okay, so to speak. And you're going to start, with entry level people, and then you get to move up to be, I don't know, the head burger flipper and maybe an assistant manager. But they had like 12 different categories. They had a whole career path laid out that could appeal to people. You come in and you're going to start flipping burgers, but here's the career path that you can take to become a regional manager. And it's sitting right there where you wait to pick up your burgers, trying to attract people. So one of the things that we need to do in our blue collar industries is we need to become great at marketing a career path for people. In the roofing industry, roofers are terrible about this. Okay?
Well, I was just fixing to ask you, is this happening in your industry, or have you seen this?
In the blue collar industry? Yes. When you go to a job fair, okay, when Mama takes Junior by the ear to the job fair, okay, and they're walking up and down looking at the tables, they stop at the plumber, and the plumbers have an apprenticeship program. And you can become an apprentice plumber, and then you can become a journeyman, and they have this progression for you. You stop at the HVAC guy. They have an apprenticeship program. They have a career path for you. Same thing with the electric. The roofers don't have that. I don't know. Do the gas compression people have that?
A little bit. I mean, there's entry level. Yeah. So I'm in the machine shop business. So okay. I repair gas compression equipment. And so we would like to think that we have a mechanic and machinist apprenticeship, but we really don't.
Yeah.
We really don't.
So if you're a blue collar business owner, you need to be out marketing your services. I know a roofing contractor who is a genius at marketing. The name of his company is Rackley Roofing. They're located in Nashville, Tennessee. He will not object at all for me to reference him. The owner's name is Curtis Sutton. Curtis bought into Rackley Roofing when it was a $3 million a year business about 10 years ago. Now it's way bigger than that. It's well over $30 million in revenue. He is the official roofing contractor for the Tennessee Titans, and he sponsors a NASCAR truck. You know why he sponsors the NASCAR truck?
Why?
Because all the blue collar workers go to the racetrack on Friday nights and they watch the cars go around and they see Rackley, 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 Rackley. They all want to go to work for Rackley. So he is very visible, not only in Nashville, but in the roofing industry across the entire country. Everybody knows who he is. And I will tell you that he also struggles to find labor. That he doesn't struggle as much as most people. Okay. He markets and markets and markets to hire people. So those are the three main bullet points I have. So there, Michael, you asked me a simple question, you get a lot of words.
No, that's great. So let me do a follow-up question is, so Mama's got Junior taken him to the job fair. I love that example. That's great. What is going to attract, so he sees a plumber, an HVAC, a machine shop, and then let's just say some sort of an office job. Or I don't want to call it creative work. I just want to say it's something that's not hands-on. What is it that will attract? Because I feel like there's some sort of, I'm almost 40. And so when I was graduating high school, there really wasn't a stigma on, and I grew up in a machine shop. So there really wasn't like, oh, he works at a refinery, so he's not that was not that. I feel like it's more so now.
Yes.
That's so what do we do for young people to help them see that this is you can make a lot of money. It's a great industry. It's a great living to make in the blue collar trade. So how do we get little Timmy or Junior to get excited about a plumbing apprentice or an HVAC or whatever?
Well, that is a good question. And I think that I'm sure I don't have all the answers, but I have a thought. What I tell roofing contractors when they talk about building their service departments, I say, repair and maintenance are what you do to a roof. Service is what you give to a customer. It's about how you communicate. It's about how you treat them. If you'll allow me to pop on my soapbox here just for a moment.
No, go for it.
When you're watching the football game on Saturday afternoon and the flat screen goes pop and the screen goes dead, what do? You take it to Best Buy's service department. If you get home and your wife is saying to you, honey, I was doing laundry and the washing machine's making a funny noise, and you go and listen and it's making a funny noise, you call the appliance center's service department. So clearly service does not have anything directly to do with washing machines or flat screens or roofing. So I think that one of the things that we need to do in our industries is help roofing contractors or machine shops or plumbers understand that those are the vehicles that we use to provide goods and services to people that need them. And so if you look at being a plumber from the standpoint that you have to get down in a ditch and dig a hole to install a pipe so that when somebody flushes a toilet in the house, it leaves the house and goes where it needs to go, that's one thing. But if you can frame it for them that what we are doing is helping build homes for people to live in so they can have productive lives, safe and productive lives, that's a different way of looking at that kind of a job. And if you look at successful business owners, that's what they do. That's how they look at their business. They look at it not from the standpoint of roofing or machine shops. They look at it, the goods and services they're providing to their customers and the value that creates. In our blue collar industry, we tend to focus on the product, not the value. We need to focus more on the value. And there's no question that it's a lot tougher to focus on digging a trench for the plumbing okay, than it is for something a little bit more pizzazz. But we have to move in that direction.
That's really good. We try to do that, and honestly, we're not good at that in our business. We do a lot of work for meatpacking plants as well as gas industry, and so we're always trying to let people understand and know, if it's in the gas industry, we're providing a service that will heat someone's home. We're repairing this compressor that will ultimately compress gas down the line so that someone can use it for their house. Conversely, on the meatpacking side, we repair gearboxes and hydraulics for a meatpacking plant so that they can make beef for the world. And we do not do a great job at continually framing it in that way. That's great that you said that.
So a whole nother line of thought. Okay. So I was with a group of roofing contractors in a peer group. Now, the smallest contractor in this peer group is $50 million in revenue, and I have two of them at $150 million or more. So these are big contractors. And they're sitting there and they're saying, well, they were whining. That's what they were doing. They were whining. And these are great guys. They all know me. I don't know if they'll hear this or not, but they will know that I'm talking about them, and they will not begrudge it because they are great guys. But I said, okay, I have one for you. I said to the one contractor, how many employees do you have that come to the office every day? He said 400. Yeah, that's true. They got about 400. So, but this is a $75 million to $100 million company. Okay. I said, fine. You need to provide daycare. Well, you would have, if they had not had seats, backs on their seats, they all would have fallen out of their chairs. What do you mean, daycare? First of all, you know what they look at it as? They look at it as an expense. No, it's an investment. So they're all complaining about labor. Okay. So understand, here's what's going to happen. In the roofing industry, both mama and papa work. Okay. Their kids are in daycare, which they pay for. And at the end of the day, it's papa's turn to go pick up the kids, except that he's on a roof and it's taking longer to get the roof dried in, and they can't leave. Now he's under pressure because he is scrambling to get this roof dried in so he can get in the truck, race through traffic to get the daycare, to get the kid picked up before they close at 6 o'clock or whatever. All this stress. Wouldn't it be nice if they could just drop the kid off in the morning at daycare when he goes in to get his truck to go to work? And then what if it's 7:30 when he gets off the roof? He can pick the kid up at daycare and take him home. And then when his competitor walks up on his roof and tries to steal his crew, because this happens in our industry, okay, tries to steal the whole crew for $2 an hour, okay, they say, do you provide daycare? Okay. Because they all know what's going to happen because mama likes the daycare. Okay. So now people say, yeah, but this is an expense. And I say, well, Google does it. They say Google has all this money. No, Google has daycare so they attract the best employees. So our industries need to start. Now, obviously, if you're a gas compression company, you've got 35 guys working in a shop, you can't afford daycare. But maybe you got a daycare place right across the street that you can build a relationship with, and you could subsidize it. Or otherwise, I mean, there's all sorts of possibilities if we stop thinking of ourselves as plumbers, roofers, whatever, and start thinking of ourselves like businessmen. This is the problem. How can we attract people? You got to compete against Amazon now. What is Amazon doing? Okay. Why is Amazon paying $18? Why are they not paying $12? How can they afford to be paying $18? Okay. So we need to look at things differently.
That is That's great. Did anybody take you up on that? Has there any commercial roofing companies
One of the
that signed up to take
contractors in that group says, I have a daycare center right across the street from me. I'm going to talk to them. Okay. We've not had another meeting for me to find out, but I will ask him what he's done with that. Isn't that interesting?
It's very interesting. And, once you say it, it seems really logical. I heard a guy, some of the guys that I follow and read, business, authors and guys have said things like, don't think putting M&Ms in the break room. People don't stay at companies because there's free M&Ms in the break room, or they put a nice little gym over in the corner. They need to know that you really care and are thinking about them. And that is one example of that, is not just free M&Ms. It's like, hey, we understand the dynamic between daycare and picking up your kids, and we want to help solve that problem.
Now think about this. We put the kid in daycare. Let's jump ahead 15 years. He's graduating from high school. He's not going to college. He's a blue collar. He's been raised in a blue collar environment. And where did he spend his formative years before he went off to school? At XYZ Roofing Corporation. His dad has worked there. Guess where he's going to want to go to work?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, there's so many bases that get covered when you do this.
Why is that? So we've heard the stories in the gas compression industry. It's not just a blue collar or trade shortage. It's this knowledge shortage where people have been in the same company, in the same job for 40 years, and they've acquired all this knowledge. And when you're working on an engine or a compressor, there are manuals, but there's nothing that will substitute the guy that can hear it and go, oh, it's the number 4 cylinder, do this, do that, do that.
Oh,
all that knowledge is going away because and it's not being replaced because there's not so many of these 40-year veteran employee stories anymore. So is that because of that?
So first of all, the first thing that comes to my mind that I would say to that person, shame on you. How dare you be so short-sighted that you are not bringing people in and apprenticing them and giving them those skills, because that's an investment and it takes money, and it takes effort, and it takes time. It takes marketing, it takes recruiting to build a culture that they want to work in, so that they don't care about M&Ms. They love coming to work because there's good people there. They like their job, et cetera, et cetera. You have, first of all, done a disservice to yourself by not 20 years ago starting to build those people. Now, I also understand that there's a lot, it's harder to get people to do that. It's harder to get them to stay. All right. And some people have tried to do that. So, but there are people listening to this podcast where that shame on you applies. Okay. Let's be clear.
Oh yeah.
So, but it goes back to building a culture so that they want to come to work. That company I talked about, the roofing company, Rackley, people love working there. They don't leave. I won't say they don't leave, but if they fit the culture, generally speaking, their retention rate is very, very high. It's not about putting on roofs. It's about having a nice place to go to work. Being able to make a living wage.
Wow, I got a lot of bullet points here from you. I think that
Good.
I think that the most insightful thing is from Burger King. This idea that here is your path. Here is, because you think, oh, well, I'm not going to go to work for $9 an hour. Well, you can go to work for $9 an hour, and in 10 years, you could be making 100 if you want to run a Burger King or manage one or something. So I think we could all do a better job of that. That's probably the most important thing I got out of our conversation. I need to do that in my own business. I need to do a better job of that.
I took a picture of that sign. I don't have it handy, but I have it. I'll send it to you.
Email it to me and I'll post it when we post the podcast. That's awesome. Anything else you want to add to our conversation?
Yeah, I do have something to add.
Okay.
If you're a plumbing contractor, stop thinking of yourself as a plumber. Think of yourself as a businessman. If you're a roofing contractor, stop thinking of what you do as roofing. You're a businessman. Think like a businessman. The blue collar industry owners as a group tend to focus on the trade, not the business. You are business people. Think like business people, act like business people. And get training, get involved in Vistage, get involved in EO, which are peer groups that can help you get better. Get involved in, find places where you can go to get continuing education on business, not how to put a roof on better. You can do that too, but how to get better at marketing yourself, how to get better at HR, all the things that you are involved in running a business. Learn that everybody can think outside the box. Okay, you just have to put your attention on it.
Let me ask you this: a lot of our industry, they are working for really big companies. Think Exxon, Chevron, Shell, these really big companies. What would you suggest if there's someone out there listening that is in a blue collar role, in a skilled trade role, a mechanic, an operator, something like that, and they want to go to their supervisors? It's not the business owner. It's one of their many bosses, and start to have these conversations of, man, how do we recruit, and how can we make this more attractive in our own business? Not talking to the owner of the company, but just one of his many bosses. Do you ever deal with that?
So my experience is that the blue collar worker that goes to his supervisor is, first of all, going to be met with lack of interest. Okay. Mm-hmm. And if we get past that supervisor and get to the next supervisor, it's going to be met with lack of interest. Okay. That's my experience. And that's why people go out and start their own companies and become your competitor. Because as a business owner, you do not listen. One of the things that I do in my work is I help commercial roofing contractors grow their service departments. I'm considered a subject matter expert and a thought leader in our industry in that. And sometimes roofing contractors will say, hey, why don't you come sit in my office for half a day and see if you think I can help? Now, I know I can help, but I go anyway. And inevitably, I'm sitting there with that person, the person that actually does the dispatching and sets up, does the grunt work in the office. And I spend a half a day with them. And eventually they figure out I know a little bit about service, because they can tell by the questions I'm asking that I know a little about service. And eventually I say, well, what needs to be fixed around here? And you know what? They always know what needs to be fixed. The person at the bottom of the food chain knows exactly what the problems are. And almost always they know how to fix them. And so I say, so when you told your boss that, what do they say? And you know what they tell me? They tell me one of two things. Either my boss never asks me for my opinion, which is an indictment of the worst kind, or they say my boss has definite ideas about how he thinks the service department needs to run, and he won't listen to other ideas, which is, I'm an owner and I have my mind made up. Don't confuse me with facts. Okay. So to speak to your point, if you got a worker, okay, and he does not get satisfaction, he's going to become your competitor. So that should be scary for some of the bosses. If you're not talking to your people, know how to fix it.
That's a great, that's great insight. And like what you were saying about a guy rolling up on a crew and stealing them for $2 more an hour, that goes on in our industry with mechanics out in the field. I mean, it's, $2. Oh, I heard they're paying $2 more an hour. And if they're considering whether or not to make that jump after they just had a conversation with their supervisor who could care less about their opinions, then that's easier to make that jump.
Absolutely.
For $1 or $2 more an hour than if the supervisor is asking them their questions about how to make things better. And
Yeah.
I guess at the end of the day, it's a very simple solution. And it is that supervisors, business owners, we have to actually care. We cannot just fake it or put the free M&Ms in the break room and think that, and pat people on the head and say, see, look what I did for you. It has to actually come through that we really do care. And it's a very, very simple solution, isn't it?
If you care, people know.
Yes.
Okay. If you don't care, you can't hide it.
Right. I hope that people in our company know that I and our partners care, but we also have to display that and live that out.
So can I make a suggestion?
Absolutely.
I assume you've got some sort of a shop floor.
We have 4 of them. Yes.
So you need to get your fanny out on the shop floor regularly and just, hey, how are you? How are the kids?
Mm-hmm.
What's new? Oh, you're a Cubs fan. How did the Cubs do? Or you need to build relationships with those people. You don't need to talk in great detail with every single person every single time, but they need to know that you're out there and that you care and that you put attention on them.
Yeah.
That I think some people call that management by walking around.
Yes. MBA, management by walking around. Well, anything else, Greg? I feel like you could be not just a commercial roofing contractor. I feel like you could just hop over to the machine shop, gas industry, plumber, whatever industry you wanted, and kind of provide some insight on.
Thank you.
What we need. I mean, I mean that. This has been really
I'm
insightful.
passionate about what I do. That maybe comes through, right? But I don't think this has to be hard. I think we have to get our priorities straight. We need to be looking at 30,000 feet. We started talking about the labor shortage and what we need to do. And the first thing is we need to fix the immigration system because there's a lot of people that are willing to come do these jobs. Mm-hmm. Let's find a way to get the door open. Okay. Mm-hmm. Let's demand it. And, but you got to see that from 30,000 feet. Mm-hmm. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on and talking. Even though you're not in our industry, you do have a pulse on what's going on the labor market, and I really appreciate your insight and look forward to maybe having a conversation again about it.
Glad to.
All right. Well, thanks, Greg, for coming on. We'll see you soon.
Yeah. Thank you kindly.